Well met, lords and ladies. Jacob Butter speaking. Enfin, c'est fini. It's done. It is complete and it is over. By which, of course, I'm referring to the remake of The Mutant Girl, episodes 4 through 5, which are not the first remakes, as Matt Adams has unfortunately been under the notion of, but either way, thank you for promoting the video in question, regardless. Don't have the heart to correct him on a community post. That was a bit too much, I thought. But either way, it's done. The last 3 weeks, possibly, I'd go as far as to say entire month of my life has been dedicated to the catch-up of that whole ordeal in the first place, which sent me down a path of actually doing the first what people would consider to be gacha animation, even though everything that I do is technically gacha animation, and learning about Fire Alpaca and just a bunch of other things which are going to really help me in the long run. So the silver lining of having to go through that whole ordeal and play catch up on a scene that I didn't think I was going to end up needing to improve myself was about the things that I learned along the way. That was what the real journey was, the skills that I gathered along the grand adventure that was whatever on earth just happened. So there is that, and I believe, sorry, there's a couple of dog walkers coming on this path who might be intercepting me. Nope, we're fine. In fact, they might have been smart because they avoided this puddle that's over here. Let me just there we go. Alright, so what has the effect of the remake been? Well, again, other than a huge weight lifted, we've actually finally, it's been since September again since the last release of anything Mutant Girl related. And that's partly been because after the first episode came out, I was working a bit on the second episode, and then the idea of the Christmas special came about again, which ran out of time to do that, to release it before Christmas. And then the remake I announce immediately starting the new year that's going to be beginning. And then after that, the whole watch hours ordeal. Because actually January and December were the biggest months for watch hours that I think I've ever actually had. For a number of reasons. That Pixelmon video especially contributed to that. But by the way, expect another edition of that at some point. Not Pixelmon necessarily, although we're going to get lots more in terms of Pixelmon going forward, because Pixel Month is returning in some form. I have to have conversations with some people about that, make sure that they'll be on board, because this year's when all of us have started working and 3 of us have started college, so it's a lot more complicated now than before. So there is that. I don't know. Again, I might have to diversify the roster. I'm not entirely sure, but if that is the case, I'll keep people posted to do with those issues. So yeah, that's beginning up in April again, and after that, I said this in stream, but I'm going to be, because 5 years later, that coming out as premieres, the VODs alongside the streams themselves, were really, really useful in terms of getting watch hours up on the exact same day. Having 2 videos a day worked wonders in terms of people's engagement and actually my ability to engage with them at the same time. Because now, with the premieres, I've not been doing that because I've been setting up for the streams that are happening simultaneously. So I had to vary that up again. But of course, with Season 6 being the last bit of My Streets that's occurring, I need a little bit of extra push, extra AFMAL content to place alongside the streams, which is why I'll probably be recording a lot more of AFMAL's other roleplays in the meantime. And I might make that into a thing in its own month, like AFMay or something like that, after Pixel Month, and that will hopefully, about a year after I discovered how far along I had to go with watch hours, I will actually have achieved the goal that I set out to do. Hopefully. But that, of course, leaves the Mutant Girl in a tough spot. Not to mention, as well, I have to also mention something to do with Ghosty, because Ghosty has introduced me to a program called VUP, or VUP, as I like to say. And the issue with that is that because we had an offhand conversation. This all started, I think, during the creator commentary of the Mutant Girl anniversary, which, by the way, is another thing that people seem to really enjoy when it was just a few of us and not everyone talking over each other. Noted for next time. But during that, there was like a vague mention of my old VTuber model, which Ghosty then said, because she's got more experience with Vroid, the program I used to make the VTuber model, that she'd be up for a little bit of an update or something. So everyone said, you know what? All right, so be it. I've listened to the feedback. Babyface is gone. That was the unofficial name for that VTuber, just incidentally. And hang on a second, I think I've arrived at a place that, wow, there were so many ways that connected to the town that I was just never caught on to. Because I know this road and this building here. Yep, as I expected. But yet in my quest to find the town, it never occurred to me that I was literally on the opposite side that I was supposed to. If my calculations are correct now, this building that I have just emerged in front of right now is, yep, the Hall Theatre. How many times did I cross this path? I not realize where I was. I'm going to try and loop back around. Yeah, so after that, I debuted that VTuber course, sort of the same way as before, except for this time I fixed the issue I had with the virtual camera, so I could actually use that rather than having to share screens at the same time as streaming, which is why I didn't do that before. The hottest ticket in town, the bodyguard. Isn't there there's like a really long gacha series that's all about like a bodyguard or something. I should put that on the list. Maybe I'll do that today, actually, with the new VTuber. Well, ideas for later. What? So, yeah, speaking of that, so back to what I was saying about the VTuber. That seems to have gone down well, except for the fact that the way that I'm able to do the motion capture, since I don't have a Elite motion controller or all those fancy gadgets from before, to make it look like there's like any sort of natural movement, I have to use this thing that drains out a lot of CPU space, and also seems to have really, it seems to be very slow in response as well. because it I said before that it looks like I'm like wading through treacle, or like my entire VTuber render is in slow motion. So that's something that I'm going to need to make some alterations to, and that's why Ghosty recommended VUP. And the thing with VUP, other than the fact that I can't figure out how to do body tracking for myself on there with my hands, so I have to have static hands, but I can like move everything else. And it seems to work way better. I'm going to test it out today on stream and see if it actually works and actually functions better. But I've been watching tutorials to make that work, and I watched a sudden tutorial, and I then had to have a talk with Ghosty during stream. I was like, what on earth have you done? What have you made me do? Because I'm not joking. After watching that tutorial and seeing what this program is capable of, I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say I have not been this excited to learn about a new program and tap into its potential since I was first introduced to Gacha in 2018. Like, yeah. Because there are some things there that I realized, oh, they allow for camera movements in 3D that can plot a different scene, which means you could immediately put other things in there. But also there's like custom, but there's like all pre-generated animations that are already in there. So even if you're like me and don't have the body capture, you can still actually synchronize those up. And depending on how that works with existing audio and video, I might be able to get more people involved, which would actually be grounds for an entire show starring VTubers. This is all for like way down the line. And I'm going to say right now, probably will be on a separate channel, because my biggest regret with the Mutant Girl, as I've said before, is not giving it its own channel when it started. So in order to not make that mistake again, I think I'll just try it out that way. But yeah, I'll get more and more used to it as I play around with things on it in the background, because obviously with the Mutant Girl out of the way, I'm playing catch up with a lot of other stuff, including the work for Denethor. I was supposed to, mention the things I was doing. I was supposed to at some point last week have another talk with Theoden about his stuff, but he's gone off grid, which is fine, because that was probably the worst week possible for me to do that, because I was still very much in the final sprint of working on that remake. So yeah, all of those things, and I think I've got a show idea in mind that could use the VTubers in a certain way. But even so, that's got to be. I've still got to think about that. And there's even 2D options, so it could even work with improving gacha as well. In fact, it actually supports live 2D, so if I ever have a reason or an excuse to like go into live 2D in any format, it would probably be to test out on there. I wouldn't be surprised if that's part of what Beowulf is going to do. And it's like 2 years old as well. Because I never looked into VTubing stuff until last year, where I surprised everyone the Butter Bunch for the 500 subscriber special. So there is that, and I've looped back around to where I was before. Whoops. How did I even do that? I went down a different path and I looped back to the exact same building. I guess I'll just try to return down here. See if it's an enchanted path or something. And you can even load 3D scenes in there as well. Or 2D scenes for that matter. So who knows, if I ever need to actually go out into the real world and do some and do some filming, some live action cinematography, on top of actually tracking myself, yeah, that'd be amazing. Again, so many ideas. This is what I was like when not immediately when I was like with Gacha, but the more that I watched videos to do with Gacha itself at the time, the more I realized, oh wow, there's a lot you can do. And then with Aphmau's thing coming out, it's like, wow, this changes my entire perception of Gacha itself. So that's another thing I could do for AFMA, actually. Well, it hasn't been 3 years yet. I was going to do not 3 years, it's been 5 years. It's been more than 3 years. It was before Mutant Girl. It's been 4 years! Happy anniversary, me. But yeah, this is what I was like before. Just in my head, like a bunch of ideas whirling around and being like, okay, eventually I'll find a way to make this work. And that's what happened. I wonder, how would Aphmau tackle that situation? Well, nowadays, I kind of know the answer. But yeah, quite honestly, I can think of, I can probably use Super Pops, the series, as a way of getting inspiration for how to film these things, considering how like half of what they do is, or more than half, is in front of a green screen. Wouldn't need to do any hideous costumes or anything. There's a lot in terms of the advances here that I could do that doesn't lose that essential human element. Because Denethor has been sending me a bunch of stuff about AIs and going into like creating personas with text to speech and all of that stuff. And if you know me, you know I hate text to speech. And it's just that Denethor doesn't know that. Like, as someone who's been, as a director of voice actors and also as a voice actor myself, it's just something that I never want to use ever if I can avoid it. So yeah, who knows? I'm glad that my performance in the in the Spanish version, where I'm like, I have to speak really quickly unless I get tongue-tied, I'm glad that has stuck and that the performance was okay. That's something else I'm going to be sorting out today. On top of as well, actually, my first professional music commission for a theme song. Which, yeah, we have to think about a lot because considering that I haven't really composed anything ever before. I've used royalty-free music before. I don't know if Ghost is going to want to take that risk. At the same time, I want the job. I want to at least write the lyrics and stuff. So so hopefully I'll be able to pull off something that's to her satisfaction. There'll be an excuse to get back into songs and also focus on that because I'm getting paid for it. So there you go. There's a lot that's happening now. So really with the musical out, I feel liberated. But I also realize that despite all these things that are going to be happening, I can't go for another 6 months or so in between episode releases. So Aiden and I have also worked on an advert right now that Aiden is editing to request some new editors. If people want to become editors for the series, then, well, you know where to find me. It's because we've lost like 2 people at once and the other 2 appear very infrequently. It's kind of hard to get a grasp on. So some of the VUP stuff that I'll be investigating will be for the Mutant Girl itself, because I don't want to move on to the next big weird project that I do. That's all about like tapping into unreleased potential of something, which is what the Mutant Girl was at the time. Trying to figure out, just what Gacha can do. And I think, again, there's like other stuff with VUP. I think VUP might actually have even more potential than gacha. Not just because of the 2D and 3D aspects, but also because of the fact that you can actually, customize way more about VTuber models than you can do with gacha. For one thing, body types, which is something that I've unfortunately not been able to do up until now with gacha, represent different body types because, well, it's gacha. So there are some disadvantages. Who knows? Haven't thought about like the community aspect and how much of that is well received or not. That's another. But then again, that never started with gacha before, so who cares? As far as the Mutant Girl is concerned, that's still YouTube priority number one, but it's not. But I can't make it urgent because I just can't make it urgent. There's also talks with Ghosty about how with the old Minecraft Fates, she was able to have much more fun with it and produce much more because it wasn't as heavy on production. So I need something else that's not heavy production, which will be Pixel Month. But after that, I might finally actually have Send Nick North return. It'll just be the equivalent of diaries on my end, where there's not too much in the way of intense visuals, but every now and then you'll get them. Because you remember with Athmel's budget before, that was an issue. So there's a lot to think about, and so yeah, considering that everything got pushed aside, I'm not completely stress-free. There's some stuff that is far from done, both in and out of YouTube. But also, I should mention another thing that came up was yesterday, a book that I wrote 9 years ago that I remade 4 years ago, the notebook of which has been found, and I've been doing a draft of that in the meantime. So I might have a book release at some point. So yeah, a lot more to consider, but at least I don't have super fixed deadlines for most of them. So I'm very happy. So yeah, please leave a like or dislike as your opinion matters, got notes already. On that note, until next time, farewell.